Hello, welcome to HCC Movie Makers Academy Movie Reviews. I'm Trey, Dixon.
And I'm Soroosh, Mehdi.
And we just saw Tusk.
Always do sober what you do drunk. It'll teach you to keep your mouth shut.
Hemingway said that.
Yes, he did. And he said it to me.
I don't want you to go to Canada tomorrow.
It's for the podcast. It's what I do. I travel around and I interview weird or interesting people.
So look out, you crazy Canucks! Wandering Wallace takes a raunchy road trip up to the Great White North.
Hello. I'm an old man who has enjoyed a long and storied life at sea. And after eons of oceanic adventure, I know I do not wish to spend my remaining years alone when I have such stories to share.
How far is Bifrost from here?
It's about 2 hours from here.
It's about 2 hours away.
I hate American guys.
Good evening.
It's nice to meet you.
Could I interest you in some tea?
So what happened after the boat sank?
I was alone, and then something very swift and frightening moved by me.
A walrus saved your life?
The walrus is far more evolved than any man I've heard of, present company included.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would you?
There. It'll be all right, Mr. Tusk.
He hasn't called me in 3 days. I'm worried.
Why are you doing this?
Are you really mourning your humanity? I don't understand. Who in the hell would want to be human?
I'm so scared. This guy wants to turn me into an animal or something. I don't want to die in Canada.
Tusk is the new horror comedy from director Kevin Smith. It stars Justin Long, Haley Joel Osment, Genesis Rodriguez, and Michael Parks. The film follows a podcaster as he journeys to Canada in order to interview an old man who claims to have lived an exuberant life filled with oceanic adventures. As it turns out, the old mariner is actually a deranged psychopath with an unhealthy walrus fetish, and after drugging the podcaster, he has intentions of making a walrus all his own.
The movie was filmed on a budget of $3.5 million using an ARRI Alexa camera. The film actually grossed about roughly around $850,000 on its opening weekend. It was filmed on. It's funny because it takes place in Canada, but the filming locations kind of weirdly in two cities in North Carolina. Actually, we're talking about Charlotte and Cramerton. And then it's really interesting actually how this film actually came about. It's basically it's basically a rendition of a podcast that Kevin Smith did, and pretty much it kind of was basically the seed, and it grew into this film that was kind of stamped Tusk. So,
Well, what did you think of the movie?
overall, I found it entertaining too. I found it more of a comedic relief, more than much of a horror movie. Because
I agree. I think that this movie has a lot of really good comedic elements, but at the same time, it manages to balance a lot of disturbing sequences along with the comedic elements. This movie does a really great thing where, and actually, I don't know if it's so much a great thing because it manages to be funny and it manages to be scary, but at no point does it manage to do both of those things at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's the mark of a truly great horror comedy. Like Shaun of the Dead is a really great example of a movie that's
Perfectly comedic and perfectly
like horror. This movie it doesn't manage to balance that perfectly well. There are some really out there sequences that are almost like completely tonally inconsistent. But I think that the first act of this movie worked as a really great dialogue-driven, tense thriller, and most of the horror elements haven't even been established at that point. I was really into it in the first act. It was only until the second act where things started to fall apart, and then the reveal of the inspector came along, and that's where the movie really kind of went downhill. But I agree. While it had all these things, it was entertaining.
Yeah, on the side note of that, I agree also with your opinion on the first act. It built up the story very well, and at first I thought, okay, yeah, it's really getting to be. It kind of reminded me of a cross between, like you said, Shaun of the Dead, and then we had just a tad. At first it was just reminding me a little bit about the Human Centipede, which is a different,
big Human Centipede
separate
stuff,
horror movie. And I mean, the only reason why I say that is only because it involves a surgeon who has this fixation of
a certain animal,
making a human into an animal.
Yeah,
but
I also got a lot of Misery, like the old James Caan, Kathy Bates movie that's based off of the Stephen King novel. A lot of stuck in a stranger's house trying to get out kind of stuff. I am very, very pleased with the direction that Kevin Smith is taking, because his films, while they've always been generally well written, he's always been lacking in the technical side of filmmaking. A lot of people have made fun of him for his usage of stationary camera work, and his movies are renowned for being dialogue driven, but that's always the thing that they fell back on because his technical work was always really shoddy. But he, with this film and his previous film Red State, has proven himself that he can actually be a really good technical filmmaker. I thought that this movie looked great.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I just haven't seen Red State yet.
Yeah,
so
no, Red State's
I'm actually gonna keep that in mind and actually keep a mental note.
Red State's a really good hyperkinetic religious thriller, which does the thing that this movie does, where it disguises itself as a comedy, but it's actually got this sinister underbelly. One thing that should be noted is that this movie is definitely not for general audiences.
Absolutely.
And I
not.
think that if you're a general audience member and you go into this movie, like if you just got out of The Other Woman or No Good Deed or any of those generic movies that are out in theaters right now, and you just walked into this movie, you'd hate it. But I appreciate the horror aspects and the comedic aspects, because it's clear that it's made by a person who appreciates both of those genres. And really great performances from everybody, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. I really love Justin Long's character in this. I mean, the fact that from the get-go he had his own little personal whiskers on his mustache, and how the plot was coming out, because it just I don't know if you remember, but if you just, when the transformation was coming about, I mean, we went from the beginning where the first limb was amputated, and then like you said before, the build-up of this story of it being a horror movie, it really reminded me of The Human Centipede. Was when he had the chance to get word out that he was missing.
I thought that whole bit where he was talking on the phone, he gave a really good performance in that.
He really did.
He gave a performance I didn't even know he was capable of.
I know. I was looking out for anything that he might actually just
usually
really suck at this, but no, he actually did.
He pulled
very
it off
well.
And he actually has a mild. He's been in one of other one other Kevin Smith movie being Zack and Miri Make a Porno, where he does a completely different role in that. I think that everybody, though, and not just Justin Long, everybody does a really great job. Genesis Rodriguez, who was in this movie a couple years ago called Man on a Ledge, where she was this generic hot chick.
I remember.
No, she was like a 2x4, but in this movie she actually has this really great
She was
sort of
basically the face.
Yeah, she was the face, but she
kind of
But she had this really great monologue where the camera is slowly coming in, and it's right after Justin Long has been incapacitated, and it's really slow and coming in, and the sound in the background, like, it's really droning, and it's like the tone is really ominous, and it's like genuinely disturbing the way that she added so much emotion to that monologue at that part after he's incapacitated. Really great stuff from her. Haley Joel Osment, who's been God knows where, shows up and proves to us that he's
out of nowhere. He just pops out.
Proves to us that he can still act.
Exactly.
And there is an actor who shows up in this movie, and we're not going to say his name, because one of the best parts of this movie is discovering that it's actually this actor.
Exactly.
But
so no spoiler alerts.
Yeah, but I remember watching that scene where he's revealed and he's wearing these glasses, and I'm thinking, okay, who is this person? I recognize the voice. I don't understand. Oh my gosh, it's him! It's him!
It was all in the eyes for me.
Yeah,
so
no, I was originally he was going to get Quentin Tarantino to play that role, but I'm glad that they got the actor that they got.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, while I am praising the fact that this actor is in the movie, his character is the worst addition to the movie. His involvement, his whole section of the story is probably the most tonally inconsistent. But it still didn't stop me from giggling. I was like, oh my gosh, it's him.
That's what I was going to say. It was actually this actor that they chose to play the investigator, the inspector, who has basically dedicated his entire life to finding this walrus, this surgeon
serial
killer in question. Basically, he was the one that gave it the comedic relief that I was not expecting at first at all.
You're either really
but
gonna.
I'm glad they did.
Yeah,
like
you're either really gonna like that part of the movie and just kind of go with it because the movie's being self-aware enough to sort of just let you fall for this kind of tonal shift, or you're gonna completely hate it and find it inconsistent.
Yeah.
But you cannot talk about this movie without mentioning Michael Parks' performance, because he is handily the best part of this movie, and he was so good in Red State, and he is so good in this movie. And what I really like is how far he's willing to go to sort of show you how creepy this person is. There's a lot of there's some old man nudity, which I wasn't expecting. So
I know that caught me off. Yeah, that really did just kind of give it okay.
Yeah,
like,
no.
I was going. Was that very necessary when I saw that scene? I was going, avert my eyes.
No, the movie aims for the fences.
I felt like I was gonna.
It aims for the fences in every regard. I don't know if it works in every regard. It certainly isn't tonally consistent, but whatever it shoots for all the way. And I respect that about this movie. It is certainly not a perfect film. I wouldn't say it's Kevin Smith's best film, but I would very much recommend it if you like horror films, or indeed Kevin Smith's previous work, because I think his direction is going in a really nice way.
I think he outdid himself in this one.
Yeah,
I really think he did.
Particularly being that it's merely this idea that was sort of birthed from this podcast, that, you know, you'd think that from that kind of origin it would be a kind of movie that nobody would really take seriously, even the director, but this is probably his most technically ambitious film. This is his best looking movie, and I was really entertained by it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I really do. It was extremely entertaining for me.
Yeah. So what would you give it on a scale from 1 to 10?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give this film. I'd give it about with the comedic relief in it. I would give it about an 8, and that's only because I'm being generous in the fact that when I first was watching this, and I was expecting a horror movie.
Yeah.
I was, as a horror movie, I would have to give it a very weak 5.5 as a horror movie. As a, again, like you said, as a it's very simplistic actually. It wasn't too complicated of a story. It was as a Kevin Smith film, I would give it a very strong 8 at least.
Okay.
In the fact that I was entertained, much like you. I giggled a little bit, and yes, it still did have that creepy, spine-chilling, hair-raising, just like creepiness of the concept, in the fact that we're talking about changing a person's exterior and basically the mentality of a human being into
the mentality of a walrus. Which is a concept that you wouldn't necessarily take seriously.
You couldn't
exactly. But they took it seriously, and oddly, because they took this ridiculous concept seriously, it ended up working, and you kind of buy into it for a little bit.
It did work actually. I'm miraculously I'm flabbergasted here.
I very much enjoyed this movie. I would probably give it a 6, because I can't recommend it to everybody. I would give this movie a much higher rating if it was more accessible, but you know what? Kevin Smith isn't generally accessible anyway, but this is one of his better movies. I wouldn't recommend it to general audiences by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, absolutely.
It certainly has flaws. It's tonally inconsistent, and while I very much like that the actor that we're not going to name is in this movie, his whole section of the film is a section that doesn't quite belong, frankly. So I'd give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, and again, that's why the only reason why I gave my rating as an 8 was I was being extremely generous, because it did, the comedy in it did kind of bring a bit of a smile to my face, but you know what, it is what it is. I would actually agree a lot more, though, strongly with your rating on it being a 6, 6.5, I guess, but, again, as a horror movie, it's really confusing for me, because again, when you're sitting there, you're expecting gruesome chasing, at least a little bit of resistance here on the part of the victim. Oh, I'm trying to run away, but then no, the killer gets you. Okay, it's one of those. But I'm trying to look for a word or a phrase here to describe this. I was gonna say that this is
Well, it's a movie about a person being turned into...
Kevin Smith, yeah.
It's a movie about a person being turned into a walrus. I don't know if there are many words to describe that.
Yeah. I can't really put my foot on it.
That's okay.
It's on the tip of my tongue, but but by and by, albeit I actually agree very much with a lot of your insights on what this film really is actually.
Well, I agree with what you're saying too.
Yeah.
I think we both enjoyed it, and I would say go see it. It's an enjoyable movie if you like horror and Kevin Smith. If you're differing on that ground, then don't go see it because you'll hate it. Thank you very much for watching HCC Movie Makers Academy Movie Reviews. We are sponsored by HCC TV. Visit us on the web at www.hccs.edu and maybe think about taking a class here at HCC Spring Branch campus. We are go ahead and see our YouTube channel, and if you would like to see any of our other videos, visit the annotations on the link below. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time.
And stay classy, Houston.
Oh, yes.